All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Lion Bolt Media. I'm your host, Craig Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Now, our very special guest and feature titan for episode 267, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, none other than the legendary Joshua Smith. And I have to use that legendary because, gosh, Joshua, I can't thank you for taking the time. This is an absolute honor and a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, no, I'm honored to be here, man. I was excited when you reached out, and I was excited that we were able to get this on the schedule, dude. And yeah, I'm stoked for it, man.
This is incredible. And I just have to give you a massive shout out. I mean, not only have you hit every milestone on the planet when it comes to real estate and setting the bar ultra high, from every aspect of life through just production and training and knowledge and impact. But I'm a huge fan of GSD Mode, the podcast, one of the best real estate podcasts out there. So again, anybody who's tuning in live with us now or a fan of Real Estate Titans or a part of the Titan Nation, you need to be a part of GSD Mode. I cannot say that enough. But Joshua, I do want to dive into you as a man, as a professional, just really your journey, the origin story. So let's just start with the first question is, telling everybody out there who may not know you yet, which is probably a very small amount of people, but the people that don't know you, who you are, where you came from, what got you into the business, and kind of your progression in your life and your journey up until today. Let's go there.
Yeah. So, I got into business in 2005. So I was 23 years old. So I've been doing this now, 18 years or so. And to be honest with you, it was supposed to be a temporary stepping stone, dude. I grew up in the health and fitness industry. My dad owned and operated gyms for 30 years. And, I was pretty certain at a young age that that's what I wanted to do. My dad ended up selling the gyms to retire right as I was finishing high school. And I had an opportunity to take him over. But we lived in a really small town in Michigan. And, I was 18 and I didn't know if I wanted to be. So anyway, I was just like, dude, go out there and sell those things. I'll figure out my path. And fast forward, here I am now. I kept in that industry. And now though, at the age of about 22, I made the realization of, hey man, for me, in order to go out there and hit my financial goals that I have in this industry, I've got to get into ownership. I was a district manager and building out sales teams in that space. But at that point, man, now here I am in my early 20s, college dropout,
Wow.
and you don't really make a lot of money in that industry, at least I wasn't, if you will. But anyway, it was going to cost $800,000 to go open up the facility I wanted to open up. And
Wow.
so I was like, okay, like couldn't get a loan and I don't blame anybody. I wouldn't invest in me at that age either at that situation. So I was like, okay, how can I go out there and raise some capital? So I'm looking at this, when it comes to real estate. Now, this was 2005, Phoenix, Arizona. Those that weren't around at that time, 2005 was very similar to like 2020, 2021,
Okay.
where it was just, everybody and their sister buying as much real estate as they possibly could, overbidding, it was just straight up craziness like we just saw last couple of years.
Wow.
So the perception, like most, is that, man, everybody in real estate's crushing it, everybody's killing it. And I'm like, dude, I love people. I love working my ass off. I'm good at sales. I'm going to jump into this thing, go out there and invest however many years, 3 or 4 years of my life to go out there and raise the down payment and go create my facility. But very quickly I realized that health and fitness was my passion. Real estate became my obsession,
Oof.
that's how it began. First year out of the gate, 2005, jumped in, did 48 deals my first year.
Wow.
And then at that point, I decided, because I needed to double my business. Because at that point, I didn't become obsessed with real estate until I started my team.
Okay.
I always enjoyed working with buyers and sellers, in the sales aspect, but I really loved the B2B component, but then, in order to hit that financial goal, I'm like, dude, like this 48 deals, it was good, but it's not going to get me where I need to be. So I need to double, then double again. And then, 2005, dude, as I reflect back, I'm kind of aging myself here, but it's like, we didn't have smartphones. We didn't have scanners. We didn't have DocuSign. Like it just took longer to do shit, so I was like, okay, I couldn't fathom how to even add an extra deal or two to the pipe a month, let alone double my business. So I knew at that point, I had to start delegating things out. Now, luckily, Because I get a lot of people, and I think it's very dangerous when we play the comparison game. I mean, there's a healthy element of comparison to use it for inspiration, but then there's a negative, component to it. So I get a lot of people that are like, well, how'd you do that? Now I know a lot of people that have done way better than that too,
Sure.
but I'm like, yeah, but look, a lot of people don't realize, like, dude, I mean, I started working for my dad at 11 in the gym, started, getting in sales at 14. Like I had 9 years of sales and team building experience, before I jumped in that. But luckily, I had, as a district manager, I built a lot of sales teams, over the years in that industry. So, because at that time, dude, teams weren't really a thing in real estate.
Right.
And there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't podcast. So, you just kind of had to figure this stuff out. So, but I went out there, I hired my first assistant, delegated out all the lower money making activities, and went out there and did 103 units. And that's really what then catapulted the team. Then next thing you know, I'm like 3 weeks booked out, my old school Franklin calendar when buyers would call. And I'm like, okay, now I'm pissing away money on that side. So that's when I started adding agents. So now I've been, building my team for 17 years now, and still have that here in Phoenix, Arizona. And that's just morphed into other things as well.
Joshua, I love your story and progression and just kind of the evolution of your life and kind of projecting that into doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on what really matters to you and your passion and how to elevate and accelerate that. At that time, as you're kind of progressing to bringing on the assistant and then building the team, what was it like as you were growing the team? So we've gotten to that point, but you've done so much, and it's not just on a production standpoint, but obviously coaching and training to the highest of levels. I want to talk about how GSD mode got started too, and really what the thought behind all that was. So take me from the team is evolving, you're elevating the transactions year over year. What does it look like into the next big steps into your life, kind of bringing you up to today?
Yeah. So, I'll have to rewind the clock slightly. About a year and a half before I got, about a year and a half, 2 years before I got into real estate, I hit a low point in my life. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because, like, look, dude, like, in order to go out there and create anything big on a big scale, like, you got to have a lot of passion and drive to make that thing a reality, because the amount of sacrifice that goes into it, a lot of people don't understand that the amount of sacrifices that certain successes take. But I hit a low moment in my life, early 20s, dropped out of college. I won't get into all the reasons why. I mean, at the core of it, I allowed myself to adopt a victimhood mindset and just was blaming the rest of the world for how shitty my situation was. Allowed myself to get 100 pounds overweight, become morbidly obese, massively depressed, and just, hit some low moments where I was just fed up with my life and fed up with, the way things were going. And again, hit a low moment where then I was like, okay, the pain of the status quo outweighs the pain of change. And I'm no longer going to accept this of myself and go make something of myself, so, and that's really what started the success trajectory. So then, because that kind of will morph into what we'll talk about here in a little bit of GSD mode, but that's where I got, that's where my own personal success journey started. Now, real estate's just been one of the vehicles that's allowed me to do it. It could have been health clubs, it could have been other things, but that's where I got really intentional with health and business and all the aspects, family, all the aspects of my life that are important to me. And then real estate again became that vehicle. And then to answer your question of, now again, though, I was doing about a year before I jumped into real estate. I had just opened up for the first time as far as my professional career. I helped my dad as a kid do this, but as far as like managing it from beginning to end, I opened up, I did all the pre-sales and launched a gym. Now, I wasn't the owner, but I launched it for them as the manager. So, going through that process, it's like, okay, as they're going through the construction process, now I'm sitting out there in a trailer, no membership sales, no residual income. And I start doing all the pre-sales. Okay, well, then we hit a certain membership base, right? Well, we have a certain amount of members. Okay, well, then at that point, and the KPIs were laid out of, okay, well, here's where you can bring on here's where you can bring on admin assistant help. Okay, well, here's the KPI you need to hit to bring on your first salesperson they can hire. then the second salesperson, the third salesperson, and then eventually step into, running a sales and managing the sales team. And, so when it came to building my own team, I just had really followed what I knew and what it worked. Cause I always looked at this is it didn't matter if I was selling memberships and personal training packages, or if I'm selling my own self on how to, be somebody's realtor, to be their guide to help them go from this living situation to the next living situation, or be somebody's guide to help them accomplish their real estate goals. Sales is sales, and building teams is building teams. And now, I've owned 13 different companies over the years, and a lot of those have been outside of real estate. And I can just tell you, dude, it's all the same thing. Products interchange, but team building, sales, marketing, the biggest differentiator is the product itself, right? So luckily I had experience with that. So, it was, I don't want to say it was an easy transition because there was a lot of headaches with it, but I knew and I understood the importance of systems and processes. And so when, I'm bringing on my salespeople, bringing, my first agent. Okay, well, hey man, I got to have a training protocol for them. I've got to have, an onboarding protocol. I got to make sure I'm hiring the right person that can handle this business and represent me with my clients. Because at that time, it wasn't, when I first started my team, it wasn't like your traditional teams today where, I'm just giving them a bunch of leads, but I mean, they were working my overflow. So these were people I knew, people wanting to work with me, that I needed them to represent me and my brand, that I just couldn't. So, there was a process to that, for about my first 6 or 7 years of my building my team, man, I had some hardcore requirements. Like you had to close 36 deals a year to be with my organization. I mean, I remember one year is I had to only hit 19 deals. I'm like, dude, sorry, you haven't made the cut. Like you got to go. Now today, the way I run my real estate company, I'd gladly have that person back. He probably wouldn't come back, but I had very high standards, ran those standards, but it was very strict onboarding, very strict of here's the process that you're going to follow. Because look, the way I look at this is, I'm not a cook, I'm not a chef, however, if I want to go out there and cook a great meal, I can go get a proven cookbook that has a proven recipe, a world-class recipe. As long as that recipe is broken down in a simplistic fashion that I can follow to a T, I can go out there and cook a world-class meal, even though I'm an amateur chef. So then I'm like, how can I take these, agents? And we do this all the day. So, with my team now today, it's like, how do I take a brand new agent fresh out of school and get them making 30, 40 grand a month after splits within 6 months?
Wow.
It's give them world-class recipes to jump into. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be guaranteed. Like they still have to have the drive. They gotta do the work. Like you can give people all the cheat codes in the world and still 80% of the general public won't do shit with them.
Well said.
So luckily, that went really well. The biggest disruption that I had was, 2008. I had my first, few years, 2.5 years of building this team. And I'm like, another year I'll be able to, have it where I'm out of production. And then I could just focus on operations. And I thought by probably year 5, I'd be able to be out of production and operations. Well, then 2008 hits. And Phoenix, Arizona was one of the hardest hit real estate markets in the country. And everywhere was just devastated by 2008.
Right.
But the blessing that I had at the time was I was so new. It was like ripping out a blank piece of paper and reinvent myself each and every day anyways, that I didn't have bad habits yet. Or I wasn't stuck in my ways. So I was very adaptable. I was already used to adapting each and every day. And I was able to read that market. I had some great mentors.
Wow.
That were able to point me. When I say great mentors, it was just, hey, you've been in the business for 30 years. Like, where's this market heading? And they're just like, hey, get into short sales and REO. That's all they had to say. Like I'd Google, I could figure out the rest. They just had to point me in the direction. Right. So, we were able to transition into short sales and REO, and racked up about 35 different REO and asset manager accounts. But the reason why I got really sucked back into production hard is like Fannie Mae Direct. And, with Fannie Mae Direct, I mean, we had certain months where we were getting 90 listings a month just from that one account, so you get some of these bigger accounts that are $1 million a year accounts. Well, the asset managers only wanted to deal with me. Now I could have all the work delegated out, but I still had to be a little bit, a lot more involved, I should say.
Sure.
Went from, that traditional business, which we were still doing and maintaining some of that, but only about 10% of our sales, were traditional. When you look at 2008 through 2012,
Wow.
80-90% of it were REOs and short sales because our market was just hit so damn hard.
Unreal.
But we were able to go out there and thrive, and I have still to this day in 18 years, every year's been better than the next, and just been able to continue to thrive by just reading the markets. Because the way that, the philosophy that I operate by and everybody in my organization operates by is there's no such thing as a good market or a bad market. It's always good for somebody. It's our job as real estate professionals to identify whom the market's good for, shift, pivot, and adapt accordingly. And you can go out there and thrive in any market. Most just have such resistance to change, dude. That they have a difficult time with that. So, but then, okay, so, 2012, market starts to correct, 2012, 2013. Now I'm back to, okay, let's build out this traditional team, build out what I was started, and then it was what, into 2014, early 2015, I finally hit my goal of stepping out of production and operations, because again, I grew up in an entrepreneur family.
Sure.
So for me, it was, dude, I wanted to create a business. I wasn't here just to go have a job. I wanted, and to me, how I define a business is allows me to make the money I want to make with giving me the time and freedom to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. So something that gave me the autonomy. So something that could operate and grow without my day-to-day involvement. So then, I'm sort of sitting back and I'm assessing, okay, like what are the next moves? What are the next steps? Because I couldn't keep jumping back in and meddling with it. It's like kids. It's like eventually they're 18. You got to let them go through their thing and figure shit out. And hopefully you did a good job, right? But man, I had a lot of demand at that point. And a lot of people reaching out, just saying, over the years, just saying, hey, will you mentor me? Will you coach me? Will you help me? And the answer was always no, man. I was always like, I'm busy building my stuff, and I always kind of had that philosophy of, doers do, so I was like, no, man, I'm busy, build, like, can you coach me on your listing presentation? No, I'm busy doing my stuff, but here's my listing presentation. You can just have it, right? But then, again, there's demand there. I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I loved it. So I decided to start getting into the coaching space, which I'm still involved in today. And then, GSD mode, so much of this stuff happened on accident, dude.
I love it.
So GSD mode, so I had so many amazing people, well, throughout my whole entire career, but especially early on. I was really intentional with this, of even before I was licensed. Like when I made up that decision, I started real estate school, just going out there and picking the brains of every top producer I possibly could, so that way I could just, hey, learn from the greats. And dude, I had so many, like, even when I couldn't afford it, like they'd take me out to lunch and then they'd even flip the bill. Cause I would hope my credit card wouldn't decline, but they could see that I was a struggling young kid and, but would just pour into me. So I always wanted to repay that favor. So, every speaking gig, whatever, every podcast, it's just always, yes, as many as I possibly can.
Wow.
Well, then it just got to the point though, dude, where I couldn't, man. It's like all these people are like, hey, can I take you out to lunch, pick your brain? And I'm like, dude, like, I'm just so busy and now I've got kids. And it's like, okay, if I say yes, this now I'm going to miss my kid's event or, but I wanted to give back to them. So then I just started, like, YouTube was, a thing at that time. So I was like, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you send me all your questions? I'll just answer them, on a video. Just I give you the same answers that I give you if we were sitting to coffee. This way you have them, you have the recording, but I'll put it out there publicly so other people can learn from it.
Wow.
And so I just started doing it for that. I ended up releasing, I don't know, about 300 videos over about a year or so span. And that did kind of morphed into GSD mode, where I just saw this thing, like it just started developing such good traction, getting so much great feedback. And then I just had, had the idea for, hey man, let's go out there and start this podcast thing, with no intent to ever like I don't run ads. I don't have sponsors. It's just, to get back to an industry that's changed every aspect of my life. And, 8 years later, a few thousand episodes in, here we are with that.
But Joshua, I love the fact that you looked at it as, giving back solely to the community and helping so many people, because you've had the blessed opportunity for others to help you along the way, and you being reciprocal with that. It's showing your integrity and the lighthearted nature of you providing value. I think it morphing into what it is today is a beautiful thing. It's a need that is massive out there. People are trying to learn and to grow and to learn from the greats, to learn from individuals such as yourself who have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and continually evolving to the highest of levels. That's a way that you can really propel and take those actions. And I love your chef analogy that you're using earlier and having that recipe for a world-class experience. But truly, those individuals that are tuning into GSD Mode and Real Estate Titans and so many other wonderful podcasts or YouTube channels that are out there, I think ultimately they've got to apply the knowledge. And you're the perfect example of just constantly pushing the information out, but then taking action upon it. And I want to spin this just a different question, Joshua, because you're on fire, man. I just love all the delivery and all your information. Where does that drive come from? Every day doing what you do to the level that you do it at. We're talking about now 18 years, but let's go way back. I mean, what really burns inside you to just say, I need to keep moving? You said 40 transactions, now it was over 100, and you just kept growing year over year over year. It's not the money thing. You don't need the money, right? You get to a certain point, it's not that. So, but what is it for you? I mean, why?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, in the beginning, it was, proving the world wrong, proving people wrong. At least that's what I thought it was, but I think it was just more me proving something to myself, but like, to me, it's like, hey, whatever you got to use for the fire, tap into it. Now, some people are like, oh, well, that's a negative, fuel. You need to have positive fuel. I'm like, no, dude, like if you got to go shut these people up and prove these people wrong, like, look at Jordan's MVP speech. It was just all the people that cut him, all the people that bet against him. He just went and thanked all of them. Right. So, whatever that fuel is, then eventually, it got to a point where I was like, okay, like that no longer did it for me. So I had to identify and tap into that next thing, first start off with just, proving, when I say the world, just certain people, wrong. Then, like I said, it came to about proving something myself. So then because for me, it's really never been about the money. Like I'm not the best with money, dude. I'm not, like, I've always, had businesses where I make good money and made a lot of it, but I've had most of my career, I've spent it as fast as I've made it. And
Sure.
I made some good bet, but to me, like, I just don't really give a shit about money, dude. It just means nothing to me. It's, and I know that that's bad to say, but it's just not, so it's a byproduct. It's, I look at that as a scoreboard. So, it's an important resource, allows me to do more of what I do. So I do take it serious, but that has never been the driver for me, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So the next thing for me, it became about awards, dude. Like I would just, just of competition. It was, I started to, I remember after, a couple, I don't know how long I was in the business, but maybe 9 or 10 months or so, met a dude named Frank Russo, and his team was doing 20 transactions a month. And I was like, I never even thought that could be possible.
Wow.
But then once I met him, saw it, then I was like, oh, dude, I got to hit that number. And then, as you start producing and now you're getting out of the rooms, now I'm meeting people doing 500 deals a month now, or 500 deals a year. Then I'm like, okay, I want to be that. Then I hit. So it just became about awards, awards, accolades, like just racking those up. And again, we're not really about the award and the accolade. It was just the competition of it.
Sure.
So it morphs and changes over time, and now today it's really just, like you got to have a lot of self-awareness. You got to really understand, who you are to the core. You got to know exactly what is that you want, why you want it, why it's important to you. When people have a tough time with discipline or drive or anything, that is typically just a lack of clarity. When you were extremely clear again on what you want, why you want it, why it's important to you, like burnout I've never found burnout to exist. I mean, I've experienced it, but it's all at times where I haven't had clarity. I've lost sight of it, and now today it's more around impact. And when I say that, that's not just because I'm some amazing human being, right?
I can say that. I can say that about you. You don't have to say it.
But being fully honest and transparent with people, I'm like, hey, like, why do we do that? Why do we go out there and give back? It's like, okay, because it makes me feel really good about myself.
Sure.
So there's always a selfish component to it. I mean, at least for me, it's like, hey, it's when I feel my best, dude. It's, when I'm doing something, when I'm building something that has a big impact on others, makes me feel good about myself, makes me feel value, gives me purpose, but I like building, epic shit that has a big impact on other people's lives and building that epic shit with, epic people that I enjoy spending time with. And, and I've tried it. I've tried taking time off. I tried, I've thought about, selling things in retirement, but it's like, those are always paths that I go down. I'm more, more miserable than I am when I'm building. Like, I just love it. I'm just one of those, I guess, twisted, weird human beings that just loves doing what I do.
The best kind of human being, Joshua. Don't ever change that, my friend. Anybody who knows you and respects you, loves you for that, please don't. I think that's huge. And you're again, setting the tone, the example for the future of the business in addition to, because you're far from hitting the highs of highs into that. I mean, you've done so much, but there's so much more to do and impact. And you talk about really looking at it from a standpoint of impact. And Joshua, I know you've impacted so many professionals all over the world with what you do and how you do it. I do want to talk about your training, really learning from you and all the experience that you have, but also so many others that you've helped get to the peaks. So let's talk about that, because we hit GSD. I do want to talk about boot camps and things along those lines. So where did that all come to fruition?
Yeah, again, I never thought I'd go down the coaching path. But then, again, it was just there, right? Like it was, yeah, I'm sitting there trying to figure out, okay, what's that next thing, after I'd stepped out of production operations, looking for that next thing to go out there and build. But I had to start assessing, okay, what am I good at? What do I enjoy? What am I passionate about? But then also, what's their demand? Like, where's their demand? Fit all those buckets. So then I'm like, okay, let me go down this path. But then as I started reflecting back, because I'm a self-development junkie, so at that point I had spent about $1 million on my own coaches, like being coached myself, to go out there and figure out how to build what I wanted to build.
Sure.
And in order to figure it out, man, I had to hire a lot of coaches way outside of real estate, specialists in this type of business. And like I just could never find this solution in real estate. And the amount of time and money I had to exhaust and spend frustrated the living hell out of me. So then, as I'm doing this, I'm like, okay, like anything I get involved in, I'm like, okay, I want to create something that I'm proud of, something that actually has an impact, something that, okay, let me go out there and build the product I wished always existed. Because what I discovered is it's not enough just to tell people what to do and how to do it. Like you got to give them the supportive plug and play materials, so then they don't get bogged down with the building and have all the overwhelm. And then from there, it was just like, okay, everything was like a piece of the puzzle. It's like, okay, I'd hire this coach to give me this piece of the puzzle, this coach, this piece of the puzzle. I'm like, okay, where's the actual business building platform out there? So whether you're a brand new agent or team leader or brokerage owner, that can take you to really go out there and scale, and that's where I decided to go out there and create. Really, it's almost like I just kind of license or franchise my entire model, but packaged up in a coaching program where they're given everything inside my business, every operations manual, every piece of whatever, all in editable format, and they get daily access to me to help them go out there and build what they're looking to build. And about a third of my clients, it's about a third from individual agents, team leaders, and broker owners.
Okay.
But the one commonality is they're all entrepreneur minded, and they have the goal of building an actual business. Like they're not looking at just going out there and cold calling for the rest of their life and having a job. Like they want to go out there and create a business, something that they can eventually sell. Because it's a very hardcore system based business program. Where we're going to A to Z with it, so, and that morphed into other things too. It was like, okay, I started doing that. Then all of a sudden, people reaching out to me inside the program of, hey, I want to use, the boom towns of the world, the KV cores of the world, the systems that you're using, but I can't afford the $1,500 a month. So then I'm like, okay, well, I just tried putting together pieces for them of software, that was more, and I realized at that point, okay, everything's been built for the team leader or brokerage owner, which makes sense. They have deeper pockets, but I'm like 97% of this industry are individual agents who never join a team, never be on a team, never have a team. Nothing's been built for them. So I started a software company where it's like, okay, let's go create the Boomtown or the KV core, but, an all-in-one website CRM, system, but that's under $200 a month, so. And now it's morphed into a team and broker product, as well, but it has that affordable component. Again, I never planned on doing that, but it was just a demand in the market that had a need, and I had the expertise and the resources to do it. So you built that, and then, and then it's led to other things as well, franchising and some other things as well, which is the focus going forward.
Joshua, I love how you're giving us all the details out there, because I think it's crucially important is to understand why someone does what they do. And especially somebody at your level to have that full scope is massive. Taking at it from a standpoint of you spending over $1 million on different coaches, trainers for different aspects of your life and your world and business, and not quite finding all the details, having to take bits and pieces here, bits and pieces there, and then really building this for yourself. Fact of the matter is that you comprised all that data and distilled it down to the success market that you built, and then essentially distributing that out to the masses, which I think is huge. And you're absolutely right. There are very few opportunities for someone to really be 100% open and honest with what really is effective to grow and scale and build a business to the level that you built it at, and then above and beyond. So I love that. what's the best way if anybody's tuning in, they're like, man, I really love what Josh was saying. I love his story and everything about him. I want to learn more. What's the best place just for the show notes and for the audio file to go if they want to buy in, learn more, connect? What is that?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. So gsdmode.com. So
Okay.
gsdmode.com. That's kind of the hub. So on there, I mean, all the places the podcast housed, got a bunch of free resources on there, trainings, ebooks, all of that. So, you know, you go check out all the free content. I mean, you can learn more about coaching and software on there too, but I recommend just start with all the free stuff.
Love it. You're the best. And so Joshua, I want to break it to the second and the last part of this when it comes down to it, because everyone tunes in to the Titans and they want to know how and what and why. So you've given us so much information, but if you could go back on your career thus far and pick or choose one or two things that you added or implemented that you really saw growth, you saw massive movement of the needle. What does that look like for you? What piece of advice would you give anybody tuning in live or just tuning in after the fact? What would you say?
Yeah, so for me, this is threefold. I'm cheating
Love
here
it.
because you gave me a little prep before we hit the record button on this. So okay, there's three massive mistakes that I made that took me a long time and a lot of pain and suffering and money to figure out. All right, the first one, which I've already talked about a little bit, but it took me too long to get extreme clarity on what I wanted, why it was important to me. If you look at your real estate business is a vehicle that can allow you to go out there and live the life you want to create. Well, I didn't have enough clarity early on. It took me about 4 years or more, and it's always shifting and changing, but it took me about 4 years to really wake up to this aspect.
Wow.
Because originally it was just, hey, I just wanted to make money. I'll go out there and outwork everybody. Well, now I'm working 4 a.m. to midnight. And even though I'm making more money than I ever thought would be possible, I was more miserable than I was when I was broke. I was like, okay, this isn't a thing either. Right. So, because if you don't have extreme clarity, like, okay, if you don't know what the empire is that you're looking to build, and saying empire just as a figure speech,
Sure.
Well, then it's impossible to come up with the architectural plans to reverse engineer on how to build that. So you can't, if success is just small, tiny decisions made all throughout the day, each and every day that compound over time, how do you know if they're the right or wrong decisions moment by moment? And those decisions seem so insignificant in the moment, but over time, as they compound, they become the only thing of significance that matters. So you got to have extreme clarity on what you want, why it's important to you in every aspect of your life that matters. So then you can start making those strategic decisions, as you're building. The other thing too, and some of these this next one might sound kind of basic, but treating my business as a business. There are certain components of it that I just didn't, so business again, I mean, when I look at, okay, how do we treat a business as a business? Number one, you're obsessed with tracking every data point, every metric inside your business. Language of money is numbers. If you want to go out there and make money, you got to speak its language. You cannot make smart, strategic, scalable decisions. You can't replicate, duplicate. You can't inspect what you expect unless you know the details of your business inside and out. And that also comes into making sure you have a process, systematic based business. But then again, it's like, okay, what do smart operators do, man? They go on there and stack on ancillaries and they're looking of different ways to maximize, capitalize, so it's like, okay, well, how, I mean, it took me a long time, dude, where I was just making money off of commissions. Then I'm like, okay, well, what if I stack on this transaction fee? Okay, well, what if I do a JV with title, then mortgage and insurance? Like, what does that look like? And how, well, now I'm getting paid 3 times the amount of money for the same amount of work, on the same transaction, right? It's
Brilliant.
so thinking of things that, from a business lens. The last piece, and this, I really didn't figure this out until 2000. I went through some pain in 2017.
Okay.
That I went through. And when I say pain, it was just growing pains and a lot of struggles that, really, really opened up my eyes to this. But making sure that you have the right leverage pieces in place, because there comes a time where it's, okay, it doesn't matter. There's only so many hours in a day. People that are massively more successful than you or I or anybody watching or listening to this, it's not always, it's not like they work that many more hours or they work that much faster. They have better leverage components. So looking at that of, okay, I can go out there and sell a house and get paid on that closing. And maybe if I work that hard and I got my, get repeat referral business, maybe that translates into 7 transactions. Now, for that same amount of energy, time, and effort, okay, maybe I can go recruit an agent that over that lifetime value, that agent with my organization results in 100 transactions. So now instead of getting paid on, 1 to 7, now I'm getting paid on 100. You know, and that's assuming that they're not even referring or bringing other people in as well. You know, it's like, what are those different leverage components, you know, that you can strategically implement that can allow you to grow on such a faster scale and go big? Because those that, you know, truly go big in any element of business, they truly understand the power of the right leverage vehicle.
Joshua, that whole piece was massive. I mean, gold nugget after gold nugget after gold nugget. You know, huge into clarity, treating it like a business as you should, and then really looking at leverage. Those are from someone who has really deeply understood and gone through the aspects of seeing business take shape. And the perspective that you bring and that knowledge, Joshua, is massive. I know this was just a tiny bit of knowledge and basis, but it was on fire, my friend. This is excellent stuff. Is there anything else you want to drop or share before we close everything up? This has been incredible.
Yeah, I would just say for anybody that's watching or listening to this, man, you know, what's so cool about this industry is it's the most level playing field of any industry that I've seen out there. Doesn't matter how tall, short, thin, skinny, overweight, you know, doesn't matter how thick your accent is. It just comes down to getting clarity on what you want and how bad you want it, and how committed that you are to doing it. So, you know, just get clarity on what you want, figure out what that is, figure out what the best plans are, proven plans to get you from where you're at to where you want to go out there and execute. The payoff is worth it. And just understand that, like, you can go, I mean, here I am, a college dropout, you know, dude, that my vocabulary consists of dude, shit, fucking bro, you know,
Yes.
you know, I've got a low IQ, you know, but you know, you can go out there and figure this out.
Oh, it's so huge, Joshua. And again, I can't thank you enough. This is huge information. And I can't tell anybody out there, higher, please look at Joshua's information, subscribe to GSD mode. So much information. Visit the site. We'll have everything in the links and the show notes down below. Joshua, I can't thank you enough for doing this, my friend. It's been an honor, truly. I mean that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, dude.
This is huge. And I do have to give you an official dubbing. You are a real estate titan, my friend. That is a badge of honor that you can wear for life. There's no trophies, no plaques, but it's in your heart. No one can ever take that away. It's true nature. High bar you set, my friend. So I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much.
This is great. And everybody, thank you as always for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like your Doing Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like and subscribe. You do know what to do at this point. I do have to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lion Bolt Media. If you are a real estate professional looking to grow and scale your business with digital marketing, layering and leveling, saturation, lead generation, conversion to more closed transactions, visit lionboltmedia.com. We're live here on Real Estate Titans every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Joshua.
Yep. Thank you.